Lake King, A Visit to the Past. Producer Don Pugh with Carol Grist. Lake King, home to 219 people, is a major grain growing region. The main crops being wheat, canola, barley, and lupins. Cattle and sheep are also raised. The cattle for meat and the sheep for meat and wool. Situated at the corner of two crossroads, this wheat growing country is primarily a service center for the wheat growing farmers with a very large wheat bin. During the harvest season of November and December, large harvesters are seen throughout the Lake King area. By large trucks or road trains to the collection point. Large wheat bins that loom on the horizon.
Got here of the Hole in Wall Tavern is it used to be the pub, the Lake King pub basically. It was put there to hold all the goods, all the farmers' goods like the machinery, parts, things like that, and the OD transport would pick the goods up and take them up to Perth, and they'd also drop them off there. They usually come through about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and all the locals would gather together and they'd all sit around with big bonfires. Some people would bring in barbecues, but mainly they had big drums, fires burning, and they'd all, you know, sit along the balcony and have a beer and talk to all the locals, talk to the truckies, and that's actually what brought the tavern to Lake King. The population of people that were wanting a tavern here, because obviously the pub's too small. Have a look at it.
One of the unique features of Lake King is the caravan park run on an honour system. There's also the Lake's Guest House, a church, and a modern communication system. A picturesque Lake King Primary School, the Pioneer Meeting Hall, a general store, golf course, and large go-kart circuit completes the complement of Lake King.
Lived in Bali right up till the age of 15 when I went away to Perth. We lived on the old family farm, my grandparents' farm, and that was about 5,000 acres. And this property that you see in all these photos is my father's farm, and there's 3,800 and something acres here. And we lived and breathed farming, and that's all I ever knew. We actually were quite poor, and we basically, that's it. What else do I need to tell? What have I missed out? That photo of the old silver caravan, which used to be really silver, was my cubby house, and it was a hospital. And I used to put all my dolls, all my teddies in there, and I had a medicine cabinet. My friends used to play doctors and nurses with me. My family would act as patients. I'd bandage them up, and that's the caravan. It's got a lot of my history, and I've come back sometimes to the farm to visit. My parents they leased the farm out about 5 or 6 years ago now, and they live in Perth. And my brother still comes down and looks after, you know, fencing and maintenance down here. This is the first time I grew up picking mallee roots using my muscles. I did. We've burnt many, I've seen them all my life, and you can make amazing things out of them. And we have a farm full of them. Gimlet trees, and they grow tall, skinny, and they even have a wind, like a wind, and they're a nice pale salmon colour, and they're strong hardwood. They'll last for years, and yeah. This is a typical Australian outback shearing shed, and my dad built it out of gimlets, out of materials he's collected up, and it did the job. It worked well. I'm a wool classer, and I've worked in that shed. I've worked in big sheds, but it's functional. It's a good shed, and yeah, it's these. That when I was would have us buying it, standing in front of it, and we drove it home. We drove it here. It's got a big old Metters slow combustion stove in the very back of it, and when we drove down the road, every bump you went over, you were going to think that the back end was going to fall off, but it didn't. And it's still hanging on. It's still all in one piece. There's no holes in it. We brought it to here because we had nothing to live in while we were working here, and we lived in it, we cooked in it, and it was, a lot of the reason was poverty. We couldn't afford anything, and my grandmother found it for us at the Hopeton Caravan Park. And once we got the house here, I turned it into a cubby, but it still sits there, and it's, they say it's where does it come from? It's from England. Yep, built in England. It's a Bedford, and it's probably when it's fully restored worth it.
Every piece was small, and I didn't have a coat. It was a way down in the fall. Mama sewed the rags together.
Our little minis, and the pink one is mine, and the grey one is yours. And on the old farm we had a track out the back, and we'd just go round and round for hours and hours, and the track was just like powder. You'd touch it with a bit like talcum powder, just from us cutting it up. And we'd have races, and we'd do 3-point turns and different things, like go under big trees and hang over low, and yeah, they were.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, I was rich as I could be, in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
See, I'm a bit of a cactus lover because they're all my cactuses. But that one there, I think I brought it home in one of those little tiny clay pots, and it was like a little, like the size of a thimble, and I can't believe it. I haven't been home for 5 years, and I can't believe the size that it is, and it's got those gorgeous pink flowers. I think that was put in when I was about maybe 14 or 15, and that supplied all our power. We had no electricity out here besides that. That powers the sheds, the house. Occasionally it runs out of fuel, you've got to go over there and start it up again. And I haven't been home for 5 years. I've walked over to the shed. The door doesn't even have a lock on it. I've walked inside. There's cobwebs all over it. I've gone to pick up the crank handle, covered in dust, covered in cobwebs. I've picked it up, hooked it on there, cranked it over. I did about 5 cranks, pulled the lever down, off she goes to start. I want you to play Dolly Parton just to start it off, because it has a lot of meaning to me, because we were always poor, and when I've heard this song I love it, because it it's a song that reminds me of how I was as a child. You know, we lived in poverty, we were poor, and some little things that mean so much to you and make you feel rich and